Hey there, fifth graders. We're going to go ahead and take a look at adding and subtracting decimals. We already looked at this when we were in our adding and subtracting multi-digit number unit, and we extended to decimals. So the important thing to keep in mind is that we add and subtract decimals within the same place value. So there's a really nice trick. Well, I guess it's not really a trick, but if you keep one thing in mind, that you want to line your decimals up, then everything else will also fall in line. So please remember, we must line the decimals up, and we have our saying, when you add and subtract decimals, line the decimals up. Because if you do that, if your decimals are lined up, then your tenths, so if I have two decimals lined up, then my tenths will be lined up with my tenths, my hundredths with my hundredths, my ones with my ones. So it just lines everything up really nicely. So in order to make sure these place values are lined up properly and to start doing the computations, which is the number crunching, we might have to add a zero placeholder. And that's about as difficult as this gets, is remembering to use zero placeholders. That's super important. So sometimes we'll have to regroup, but our regrouping rules do not change when we're dealing with decimals at all. We're just going to add and subtract like we do with whole numbers. Please keep in mind that if the sum of your digits is larger than 9, so if it's 10 or higher, then you must regroup, or I call it, carrying. And then regrouping with subtraction, if the digit you're trying to take away from the subtrahend, so the number on top, if the number on top is less than the number on the bottom, which you're subtracting, which is called the minuend, then we regroup. So we're going to be quote-unquote borrowing a set of 10 from the next largest digit, which means we then deduct or take away 1 from the digit that we borrowed from. So let's do some examples to make sense out of all of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my numbers are lined up. So 3,207 and 4 hundredths. And to that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and right away line those decimals up. 486. Now again, with my decimals being lined up nicely, everything else lines up. My tenths are with my tenths, my hundredths are with my hundredths. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding. I'm going to regroup. Uh, 3,693 and 53 hundredths. Okay. We can check our work by subtracting, and that's what we're going to do on the back side. So I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Now again, here's the key, is that we need to make sure our decimals were all lined up and it goes straight on down. For those of us who maybe struggle a little bit with our organization, if you want to go ahead and make columns for yourselves, that's absolutely fine. Make sure all those numbers stay lined up. All right, let's do another example together. 2,395 and 9 tenths. And to that, I'm going to add 13,082 and 384 thousandths. Now, if you notice, I don't have numbers, I don't have hundredths or thousandths. I'm going to go ahead and add in my zero placeholders. And we go ahead and add. Bring that decimal straight down. 15,478 and 284 thousandths. Let's take a look at some subtraction problems. Again, our subtraction rules do not change. We're going to subtract like we normally do. We just need to keep in mind that when we add and subtract decimals, we need to line the decimals up. Okay, so, and this is what we were talking about. If the number below is larger than the one above, so I'm trying to take 9 from 7, I'm going to go ahead and regroup so I can make that happen. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to deduct 1, I'm going to increase that by 10, that becomes 17. 17 minus 9 is 8, 3 minus 0 is 3, bring that decimal straight down, 1, I need to regroup again, that becomes a 10, that becomes a 4, 3, 1, 4,131 and 38 hundredths. And the last one together, 54,000 493. Okay, I don't have a decimal part to this. That's okay. But actually, I see in my next number, my minuend, ooh, I do have decimal place value. So I'm going to go ahead and add 0 placeholders. I'm going to need to regroup, so I need to go next door. That's a 0. I have nothing to borrow, so I need to go 2 places over. That becomes a 2, that becomes a 10, and we can start over. I'm going to go next door and borrow. That's a 9, that becomes a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9, bring that decimal straight down. Regroup, that becomes 12. 5, 0, regroup. 14, regroup. 13, 9, 49,505 and 99 hundredths. So let's talk about checking our work, solving and checking. Oh gosh, I didn't print the other side, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and just do one example where we're going to check our work. Let me pull this up so I can visually take a look at what we're looking at. I tell you what, I will post that video on a separate video. Part 2 to come.